401. That's John Dolbeck and the Dolbeck team of First Home Mortgage. They've been sponsors of the Joe Luca Real Estate Show from the get-go. He does a fantastic job with my clients, whether they're buying a $200,000 home or a $500,000 home. John Dolbeck does a great job handling my clients, educating them about the process, and making it a pleasant experience. And what's really good is he understands and he can appreciate that buying a home is one of the most stressful things that we do. It's the largest financial transaction of your life. And John is empathetic to the client. So he realizes that surprises are not a good thing. So he has the foresight, the experience, the knowledge, and the work ethic. He's a veteran from the Navy. He was on a submarine, so he's the real deal. And he takes care of everything, plans ahead, very organized, and does a good job for the clients. And of course, after you go through the whole application process, we find the home and negotiate a good value for you as a buyer. Then our closing attorney of choice is Beacon Title and Escrow. The managing partner is Anthony Betancourt. Managing attorney is Rich Nicholson. The phone number there is 401-473-3713. But that's a number you really don't need to remember because I, as your realtor, will connect you directly with them. Whether you're buying or selling a home, you really need to have, or any piece of real estate, you really need to have legal representation, someone watching out for your side of the transaction. And Anthony does a great job at that. Okay, he explains everything to the clients so they know what's going on with the real estate transaction. Okay, so folks, there's a lot going on in real estate right now. We have a lot of good news happening. You know, the market is still doing really well, and the mortgage delinquencies are still at historic lows. Still at historic lows. Okay, and I want to pull something up from my email that I received earlier today. Let's see if we can just bear with me here one moment. And the folks, despite everything that's going on with COVID, shutting down of the economy, people not returning to work, there are many, many folks who are continuing to remain current on their mortgage. Okay, this is something that means a lot, and it's also, it shows that there's a lot of vibrance in the economy. There's a lot of pent-up demand for buyers too, because existing homeowners are not falling behind. They're remaining current on their mortgages. But even folks who are homeowners and they're trying to remain current and active, so if they want to buy a bigger home, downsize, and things like that. So, you know, the market is still very strong. You know, there are delinquencies. There are some folks that are delinquent on their mortgages, but it's much lower than the numbers that we've seen in the past. And we're fortunate because in this part of the country, things are better than they are in other parts of the country. And that's the data that comes from a company called CoreLogic. All right, they are a big aggregator of real estate data and all kinds of data, and they manage all that stuff and send it out to us folks in the real estate industry and let us know what's going on. We've been in a period of declining delinquency rates for the past actually a few years now, and you know, things have kind of not continued to decline the past couple of months because of COVID, but when you look at the headlines and how bad you would expect things to be, we're not anywhere near that when you look at the actual data. And that's also reflected again with the pent-up demand amongst buyers. I mean, I've described the business right now as trying to drink water from a fire hose because there's so many folks out there trying to buy a home. And, you know, I tell my buyers, you need to be persistent and you need to be consistent. I will not give up on finding you a home, but you need to work with me. So I'll keep sending you homes. I'll, you know, every day look at the new houses on the market, send you some properties, maybe a little bit outside of your comfort zone or outside of the box of your search criteria. but sometimes you can find some real opportunities there. Okay, and these are the types of things that I do for my clients because I'm dedicated to my clients, to my buyers and my sellers. My buyers, I will work with them as long as it takes to find them the right home that meets their needs and their budget. Whether they want to move quickly or take their time, we'll do that. I have some clients that I've picked up recently that called and they're not ready to buy yet. They're not qualified. Maybe they just were. We've had a couple of folks that called up, wanted to look at a house, and then a few days later they were furloughed. They were laid off from work. So we have to put everything on hold. But I don't give up on those folks. And not only do I not give up on those folks, John Dolbeck and the Dolbeck team, they don't give up on those folks either because they will keep them in the incubator, to coin a phrase, the incubator, so that will get them prepared to buy a home, telling them what they need to do to improve their credit. If they already could qualify, well, what could you do to get a lower rate? Because if you can get a lower rate than what you qualified for now, your payment is going to be lower. And the Dolbeck team at First Home Mortgage, they do a great job of coaching, essentially, coaching the buyers to get them ready so they can qualify for the best mortgage that they can. And those are the types of things that make the difference between working with someone who's dedicated to the industry, dedicated to the client. I tell my clients, doesn't matter if they're a first-time home buyer buying a $150,000 house, or if they're an experienced home buyer buying a $500,000 or $750,000 house, they're the boss, okay? They tell me what to do. I do what they want me to do. So if they want to move quickly, we move quickly. If they want to take their time, we take our time, okay? And the reason I do that is because, again, it's the largest, or at least one of the largest financial transactions of their life. And adding unnecessary stressors doesn't make it easier for me, doesn't make it easier for them. So I try to, always remain 3 C's, cool, calm, and collected. Even if there are surprises that come up, sometimes things come up. We had a transaction about a week or so ago, and thank goodness for First Home Mortgage in their underwriting department. They identified something. A client was getting a mortgage, and someone fraudulently applied for a loan in the name of one of the buyers. The buyer wouldn't have known that if we weren't getting ready to close and First Home Mortgage weren't on their game doing what they need to do. They identified that fraud, caught it, nipped it in the bud so that this consumer was not, did not suffer any financial loss. Okay, but those are the types of things that surprises come up. We deal with them. I'm experienced. John's experienced. Anthony's certainly experienced. We identify these problems, we address them, and we move on so that everything happens as it's supposed to, or as close to the time frame that's supposed to. That particular transaction was only delayed by about 2 hours, okay? Because we identified the problem, or they identified the problem early enough at the underwriting department. This is why it makes sense to work with a team of real estate professionals. So you have someone like myself. I'm a full-time experienced realtor, 20 years in the industry. Anthony Betancourt he's on the closing and title side of the industry. He was on the lending side of the industry before. This is all he does. It's all that I do. John Dolbeck, all he does is write mortgages. He doesn't do anything else besides help people finance their real estate acquisitions or refinance their real estate acquisitions. Okay? We all have a lot of experience. So we are a good team. We work together to identify problems. We work together to address issues so that they do not derail the transaction. All right? So folks, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here in WNRI from Woonsocket, Rhode Island. 99.9 and 95.1 on the FM dial, as well as 1380 on the AM dial. And you can also hear us on TuneIn.com and Facebook Live. My business page, Joe Luca Realtor, is my business page. And you can see the video of the show, which is nothing elaborate, but it's pretty simple. And we want to see what it looks like in here. I was hoping to have a guest on last week and this week, but things happened. We couldn't get everything together, get the schedules organized. But we're going to try again for next week because there are some interesting folks that I want to have come on the show. I just want to do a quick public announcement. The mayor of the city of Woonsocket sent out a press release that the city of Woonsocket is set to reopen the Treasury and Tax Collection Office to the public tomorrow, Wednesday. Mayor Liesl Baldelli Hunt announced that the city of Woonsocket will reopen its Tax Collection Division office to the public on Wednesday, July 15th between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Now you'll remember they had previously extended the City Hall hours from 4 to 4:30. The Treasury and Tax Collection Office has been closed to the public since March due to the COVID-19 pandemic. All right. Fire Chief Paul Chatra has worked to institute precautionary safety guidelines for Treasury tax collection visitors that will include a temperature scan and hand sanitizing upon building entrance, mask wearing at all times inside of the office, social distancing while waiting in line both inside of the office and outside of City Hall, and providing certain contact tracing information. These are all things that are necessary to, one, protect folks, two, identify folks that may be sick and they don't know it, all right, as well as serve the public. That's why these folks are there, to serve the public. So this is one of the things that, hopefully we're going to continue. I think Rhode Island is one of the states that's at the forefront. We're managing this pandemic pretty well, as far as if you're looking at the numbers. And we're fortunate that in my industry we can continue to transact businesses. There are restaurants that can open, that are open now. Of course, they have reduced capacity. But we're fortunate. We can go out and do these things. The beaches are open. I went to the beach, last week? So there are a lot of good things going on, despite all of the upheaval we've experienced in the past several months due to the COVID-19 virus. Okay. So we appreciate that the mayor of the great city of Woonsocket is doing everything she can to make make City Hall more accessible to the public within reason, and of course instituting certain precautions for health and safety of everyone there. All right. So getting back to the real estate market, we've been talking about buyers and why it's a great time to buy. One of the things that's a challenge, one of my listeners last week called me up after the show, and he's looking to buy a piece of land, and the price point that he's looking to buy this piece of land in is there was one piece of land that appeared to be available, but it wasn't available. And again, you need to be diligent. What I'm doing for this particular client is I'm actually calling around looking for properties for land that is not on the market right now, to see if anyone would consider selling it. Maybe they don't want to have to pay the property taxes anymore. They don't want to have to maintain the property themselves. But these are the types of things that I do for my clients when we cannot find the inventory, when there's not enough inventory for what their needs are. Okay? So trying to go above and beyond. I'm very fortunate that I have a very extensive network within the industry, folks who are fellow realtors, other appraisers, developers, builders, contractors. These are folks that I can reach out to and say, hey, if you know anyone who may be sitting on some land that they would like to sell or subdivide, let me know, because we might be able to put a deal together, because I have a buyer looking to do that. When my buyers who were looking for properties, if they want to be in a neighborhood or in a city that there's nothing available in their price range, I will target those neighborhoods and go and try and identify properties that are not on the market yet for my buyers. Okay? These are the types of things that you need to do to serve your boss, in my case, the client, the buyer, the seller. Okay? So, I say this all the time on this show, and I have friends that are realtors, and they're part-time realtors, and I like them and everything, but I don't know how it's possible when you have another job that's requiring 40 hours of your week and 40 hours of your brain energy and concentration and focus, how on just a few hours a week you can focus, put all of your energy and stay current on what the market is doing. Do everything like schedule the appointments, go to the showings, do the research, do everything you need to for them, and not deprive them of the focus, the energy, the information, and protect them from unnecessary liability throughout the transaction process. Because I know, with this being the only thing that I do is real estate, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to do all of that, to stay on top. I mean, trying to continue to get myself educated, that's another thing. It's a constant process, taking webinars, participating in classes, getting designations. The National Association of Realtors has the Commitment to Excellence program. Studying for that every week. These are the things that are kind of the hallmark of being a full-time experienced realtor, because it's how you get more experience, you get more knowledge, because it's a lifestyle. And what I love about my business is that not only is it very rewarding helping someone buy their first home. I have a buyer I've been working with for a few months now, and we've been looking for houses. We put several offers in. We were always coming in short, not enough. Someone would beat us to the punch or whatever the situation was. We finally got an offer accepted. It came in last night, and we got the signed purchase and sales contract. Came back today. It's actually a property right here in Woonsocket. Listing agent is a buddy of mine, Kyle Siebert, who also has a radio show on another channel, a real estate show. We're persistent. You have to keep going and keep looking and keep trying and tweak the criteria, the search criteria, to find something that he wants. This was it's an investment property that he's going to live in. It's a rental property. So I would try and give him, I would give him guidance as to how to put together a pro forma, how to establish what rental incomes could be expected from this property going forward, and then the potential opportunity to add value to this property, because that's one of the great things when you buy a property. You need to buy it right so that there's an opportunity to add value when you own it. All right? And there are many different ways that a new homeowner can add value to a property. A lot of it has to do with the way you buy it, okay? Because you make money when you buy the property, not when you sell it. And all of my clients, they get this, little tutelage from Joe Luca about extracting maximum value from a property. And that's something that I repeat every time we go out and showings and we're looking at properties. There are things that I point out, showing them, illustrating why this property may be a good opportunity to purchase and add value if we can get it, or why it may not be a good candidate to add value, which doesn't mean they may not want to buy it, but they will understand that there's a limited capacity to add value based on the pricing and the condition of the property. Okay. So this client, this buyer, we've got everything signed up today. The documents were already sent off to Anthony Betancourt at Beacon Title and Escrow, so he's going to be handling that closing. And what's great about this buyer is he was referred to me from another client of mine. Okay, this is the best way to get clients, because someone else, they said, hey, Joe Luca's a great guy, he knows what he's talking about, a lot of experience, go to him, he'll help you find the best property for your situation. So it was quite I was very honored and humbled that this particular buyer was referred to me, and I'm glad that I was able to find him a great home in short order. All right. Quick shout out to my cousin John Salona, who is watching from North Providence, Rhode Island on Facebook Live. Hello, John. Thanks for tuning in. John watches my show pretty much every week, and I appreciate that. My family, many of you know who listen to the show, I grew up in North Providence. And my family, you know, we're in the music business for a long time, and some family still is. It was the store in downtown Providence, Avery Piano. We had Luca Music on Mineral Spring Avenue. My cousins, the Salona family, they had lots of other businesses too on Mineral Spring Avenue and Charles Street and down in Maryville. So we were like kind of really entrenched in the North Providence community for a long time. But probably about 20, quite a while ago, I moved up here to northern Rhode Island. I don't know what actually, I think I wanted to be a little bit closer to Boston, but wanted to stay in Rhode Island, so that's what made me move to northern Rhode Island. But my office is in North Providence at Remax Preferred. I actually make the long commute from Cumberland to North Providence, even though we have an office, Remax Town and Country. We have that office in Cumberland. I choose to go all the way to North Providence because I like the dynamic of that office, the folks that are there, and I have to say I enjoy the fact that the office is literally about a 7-minute walk from the house I grew up in, and plus there's a lot of good shops and Italian restaurants and things like that there. So it's a good place to be. So I enjoy that North Providence connection. My cousin John is the link to that. Okay, that was a long segue, folks. It's about 1/2 hour. You're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. We've been talking about buyers for the first 20-25 minutes of this show, but I want to talk about sellers now because we need more sellers. Inventory is very tight. It's very tight. I was talking with a listing agent. I had a showing at his property. He had 60 showings. He had showings going every 15 minutes. 60 showings. We need more houses to sell. So if you're thinking about it, this is a good time to sell. We can price your house appropriately. It will sell quickly. All right. Even if you have a home that's a short sale or things like that, we can work out a way to get that home prepped and ready to be sold. Estate sales, I've got a listing like that we have an offer in on. I have a short sale right here in the city of Woonsocket, which we have an offer on, and the approval from the lender is forthcoming. So we have a lot of good things going on like that. I have a listing in North Providence, commercial listing, actually 2 in North Providence that are under agreement. And I have another one in Providence and Olneyville, a commercial property that hopefully will be getting an offer on that soon as well. So there's a lot going on. We have some nice listings just over the border in Massachusetts. Of course, as I said in the beginning of the show, I'm licensed in Massachusetts. So we have properties there, multifamily properties and a commercial property that are available for sale. All you have to do is reach out to me. I haven't given you my number yet. My number for Joe Luca Realtor, 401-580-9797, 401-580-9797. You can text me at that number. That is probably the best way to reach me. Text me first because I can't always pick up the phone. If I'm on the phone or if I'm on a showing, I won't be able to pick up the phone. Okay, so just send me a text and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Just, of course, give me your name as well. Again, I want to thank our sponsors, John Dolbeck and the Dolbeck team at First Home Mortgage, 401-321-4044. That's 401. I'm going to pull it up again here. Let's see. 401-321-4044. And Anthony Betancourt at Beacon Title and Escrow, 401-473-3713. That's Anthony Betancourt at Beacon Title and Escrow. They do an awesome job, and I just saw some emails that came in from Anthony on that transaction I sent over to him earlier today. So we thank our sponsors. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the Joe Luca Real Estate Show, you can reach out to me as well, 401-580-9797. Call that same number, you get the same service. Again, 401-580-9797. And we can hook you up with that as well. I also have a blog and I do podcasting as well, so you get kind of an extra bang for your buck when you advertise on the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. So, sellers, things that you can do. If you're not sure what you want to do, or what you need to do to prepare your home for sale, you need to talk to someone like myself early in the process. The earlier, the better, because you don't want to spend money that you don't need to spend. All right, a couple of weeks ago, I had a prospective client. I met with them, and they want to put their home on the market probably in 9 to 12 months. And they were going to do a lot of things in the house that really aren't necessary. And when I say not necessary, yes, those things may need to be done at some point. But it doesn't make sense for the seller to spend money to make those repairs, because it may make the seller feel good because now their house looks better when strangers are coming in. It's not going to get them more, it's not going to increase the sales price enough to make it worth the monetary investment. By that I mean, if it's going to cost them $4,000 or $5,000 to make these minor repairs, and it only increases the value of the house $1,000 or $2,000, if at all, because then you run the risk that the buyer who wants to buy the house may not like the repairs or the updates that you did. So a lot of times, the things that you should do when preparing your home for sale aren't the big things, because yes, if you spend that $5,000, you're going to increase the property value, but maybe only $3,000. So you need to really, evaluate that. And there are only 3 things that increase the value of your home more than what you spend on these 3 things, and that's a roof, a front door, and your garage doors. When you replace those 3 things, the amount you spend, for every dollar you spend, the corresponding increase in the value of your home, the fair market value, is more than $1. Everything else you spend in your house, remodeling your kitchen, your bathroom, your bedroom, putting new carpets, new hardwoods, for every dollar you spend on those upgrades, those repairs, those updates, every dollar that you spend is going to increase the fair market value of your property less than $1. Okay, now, sometimes you may still want to do that because your property will sell more quickly, because it will catch the consumer's eye. Okay, then it's worth it, or could be worth it. But I try to provide all the information, and I have data to back these statements up, data from the National Association of Realtors, to demonstrate that this is what makes sense. It's good dollars and cents decision making. All right. So you don't want to spend too much money. You don't want to do things that the consumers today aren't interested in. Okay. If you have someone that's 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're going to make some updates or some repairs to their home, and they're not really in touch with what today's consumer is looking for, they may spend the money, and the consumer might come in and say, "Oh, that's hideous. I don't like that. I want to rip that out." So that money that the seller spent was for nothing. It was wasted. Sometimes there are just minor things that should be done as opposed to major things. But of course, the first thing you, the consumer, need to do is give me a call, 401-580-9797. Text me at that number. Call me at that number. Email josephluca@remax.net. That's JOSEPHLUCA, all one word, at remax.net. Okay. Want to do a quick shout out to the awesome president of the Rhode Island Association of Realtors, Shannon Buss. She's a good friend of mine. She reigns down in Newport. That's her home base. And I'm going to actually be seeing her tomorrow night. So big shout out to Shannon Buss. She's an awesome realtor. We're very fortunate to have her as president of the Rhode Island Association of Realtors. She actually has national presence and recognition. She chairs a national committee. She is really the real deal, and we're very blessed to have her as the volunteer leader of our Realtor Association in Rhode Island. Okay, had to get that shout out over there. Want to also give a couple of shout outs to some other folks that I appreciate their professionalism and their business. Shout out to Terry Abruzes. She works at Slocum Realty. I just did a transaction with her a couple of weeks ago. top notch. Gave her an awesome review on a peer review website today. You know, whenever I work with another realtor who represents the transaction and the profession well, serves the client well, even though they're on the other side of the transaction, it's nice to see a realtor do a good job representing their client. Okay, and sometimes that can be a challenge because not all clients are easygoing, understanding, and reasonable. Okay, sometimes they can be a little challenging, but it's always good when you have a realtor who has a good relationship with their client and represents them well. Even when the realtor's on the other side of the transaction. Terry Everett is from Slocum Realty. She does a really good job, and I'm very glad that we were able to do that deal together. Okay, now folks, sellers, okay, I have someone looking for a condominium. They're looking in the Cumberland, Lincoln area. Two-bedroom condominium. If you know anyone who's looking to sell, thinking about selling a two-bedroom condominium in Cumberland or Lincoln, please let me know. 401-580-9797, because we have buyers ready to go. I have a nice condominium in North Providence, two-bedroom condominium, 1,500 square feet. It's a nice sized condo, single level with a two-car garage. That's a nice property, but it's in the wrong town for my buyer. So if you know anyone in Lincoln or Cumberland looking to sell a two-bedroom condominium, please reach out and let me know. I also have some folks, actually friends of mine, that are looking for rentals. Okay, if you know anyone who has a three-bedroom rental in Cumberland or Lincoln, again, they could do a two-bedroom, but would prefer a three-bedroom. Please let me know. 401-580-9797. What else do we have? I've got clients looking for a single-family home, three-bedroom. They're very flexible. Can do East Providence, can do nicer neighborhoods in Providence, Pawtucket, North Providence. That would be great. I have a client looking for a two-family home, perhaps in Woonsocket, perhaps in Cumberland, Lincoln, North Providence. They're very flexible as far as the municipality, but they need a whole bunch of bedrooms or the ability to add more bedrooms. So one unit needs to have at least two bedrooms. The other unit needs to have at least that many and the potential to add more. So if it's a two-unit house that has an attic that could be, second level unit could be expanded into, that's something that would work out nicely. I know there have been some of those that have come on the market, but they seem to be going under agreement the day before we see them or the day after we see them. So those are the types of properties I'm looking for right now. And if you have anyone who, or know anyone who may have a property like that and they would be interested in selling, please let me know. You know, and those are properties that would be in not perfect condition, but nice condition. The single-family property, you know, they want that in move-in condition. But the multifamily property, they can do some work as long as the property qualifies for a mortgage. All right. As you know, if you listen to this show, it's not just the buyer that has to qualify for the mortgage. The property, the home, needs to qualify for the mortgage too. So if you're getting a USDA loan, a VA loan, an FHA loan, a Rhode Island housing loan, there are certain things on the property that need to be in a level of finish condition, okay, that if it's below that, the house, it will not appraise. The appraiser will not approve the home. Okay, so if you have a porch that has dry rot, you know, the porch is unstable, peeling paint, broken windows, no handrails on stairways, a furnace that doesn't work. Those are things that would disqualify a home from qualifying for an FHA, Rhode Island housing, USDA or VA mortgage. Okay, and that can be challenging because a lot, you know, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking at one of those homes that's in your price range and needs work, they're competing with flippers who are paying cash. So that can be a challenge. Now, if you're selling a home like that, it's going to sell quickly because, again, there are flippers who will scoop those houses up. They pay cash if it's out of pocket, or if they're using a private lender, they can do that. Alrighty. My allergies are acting up. So it's almost a quarter of the hour, folks. Want to say hello to Dawn Morano. Yes, we haven't done business yet. Thank you very much for tuning in on Facebook Live, Dawn. I would love to do business with you at some point. Maybe we can get together for a cup of coffee. So, see, this is what, folks, I say hello to my colleagues, my clients, that I see them tuning in on Facebook Live. Realtors, we're competitors, but we're colleagues, and we have a certain, I don't want to say fraternity because then I'm leaving out all the women, but whatever the word is, a certain camaraderie, I guess, that we support each other, okay? And that makes us all better, because the great thing about realtors is we all come from different backgrounds. Sometimes you have realtors that come right out of high school, they get their license, and they start in their real estate career. Other times, folks, maybe they were married, a housewife, a mom, a dad, and then they come into the field. They retired from something else, were laid off in another profession, came into it. And everybody brings their own individual experiences, which can contribute, can add value to the transaction. All right? And that's the common denominator. Realtors should add value to the transaction. And when you're working with a full-time experienced realtor, we have a much easier job at adding value because we have so much experience and market knowledge, and also educational book knowledge, because we're always learning. We're taking classes, taking webinars, okay? And we talk to each other. We get together at networking events and we share war stories, and so we can learn from each other, because that makes all of us better in our job. I was mentioning earlier with why I go to the North Providence office, RE/MAX Preferred, and that's one of the things that all my colleagues there, we ask each other questions. Hey, how would you handle this situation? Have you ever encountered this? We share that information, those experiences, so we all become better, and we offer more value to our clients by doing that. Okay? So it makes sense to be selective when you're choosing a realtor, especially if you're going to be selling your home. If you have a realtor that doesn't have the experience, they don't market your property as well as it should be marketed. They don't price your property appropriately, too low or too high, because if it's too low, you're not going to get all of your money. If it's too high, you're not going to attract enough buyers. Okay? There's a certain strategy that can be employed where you price a property just a little bit below fair market value to encourage all of the buyers to come and put offers in, and then that pushes it up higher than if you just listed it at fair market value. I am very successful at giving my clients maximum value for their properties. Okay? How I market the properties, how I show the properties, how I present the properties during a showing. There are certain ways to walk around a property and walk through a property so that the consumer, the buyer, will appreciate the flow, between air quotes, of the house. You can walk through a house and it can be very disjointed, but if you change the way you walk around that house, it can be less disruptive. So if you're showing a house from the mid-century house from the 1940s, 1950s, the layouts were very different than what we're accustomed to now. Okay, so it makes sense to try and find a way to walk through the house so that it flows as much as possible. All right. This is one of the things that you learn about when you're active at the National Association of Realtors and engaged You know, the National Association of Realtors, anyone who's a realtor, can only become a realtor if you're a member of the National Association of Realtors, has so much information for us, so much data that's available for us. You just have to go and access it. And there are so many folks who they're so busy running around, if it's at another job or they're not focused enough on or dedicated enough to the craft of real estate, they miss all of those opportunities. Okay, and it's especially challenging now because the market is so crazy. You know, people are running around trying to get listings, trying to get buyers into houses. Are they going to have time to learn what the latest financing opportunities are, the changes in guidelines for lending? You know, does everybody know the changes in FHA lending guidelines because of COVID? Okay, I do. I know because I talk, I engage, I ask questions, I read. All right? If someone is not following what's going on in the economy and the market, are they going to be aware of what is the trend, where is the movement, where are people moving from what type of properties to other types of properties? All right? That may differ, or it does differ from geographically from one state to the next. But it's important to know that when you're in Manhattan, you're in New York City, and people are leaving New York City because of all the nonsense that's going on there, where are they going to? People who are plugged in and engaged, the realtors that are plugged in and engaged in New York, they know the answer to that question. I know it. We're fortunate that in Little Rhode Island, we're not having a vast exodus from our cities because first of all, our cities are smaller, but we don't have a lot of the systemic problems with violence and crime that they have in these other cities. You know, we don't have the crazy protests that drive people out of cities. I mean, we had some unfortunate experiences a month or two ago, but hopefully that it was an aberration and just a blip on the calendar, a blip in history, I guess. All right. Folks, it is about 9 minutes of the hour. You're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. I'm Joe. I'm your host, and we talk about real estate. We've been talking about real estate from the seller side now, why we need more homes, things you need to do to prepare yourself for home, and things you shouldn't do. There are things you should do, but there are many things you should not do, and there are some simple things that you should do, and you don't want to unnecessarily spend money that you may not get a return on when you sell your home. The things that impact that decision, that thought process, are the age of the home, how outdated it is. Was it, is the kitchen from the 1960s or the early 2000s? Okay. Is it a Cape Cod house in its original layout? Or is it a raised ranch from the 1980s or 90s? All right. What's the landscaping like? Where is it? Is it a more urban setting, more rural setting? A nice static neighborhood, or a neighborhood that's in transition, moving up or moving down? These are all the different things that contribute, that are factored in when you're making the decision about what to do, if anything, when preparing your home for sale. Some of these things are like second nature to me because I've been in the industry a long time. I've been a landlord. I've done flips. I've been through thousands of homes. I owned a company where we did property preservation. We took care of the repairs and lockups of properties that were foreclosed on by the banks, and then we would do assessments, property assessments, and written reports to the bank to let them know the condition of the properties, and then also establish what repairs needed to be completed in order to make the property saleable. So I've seen everything. I've seen houses that were neglected because the folks didn't have the money to maintain the home before they were evicted. You know, you go when some of those houses, and it looked like they were just evaporated. There was still food on the table, coffee in the coffee cups. I've been in houses that had been vacant for so long that there were squatters living in the home. The houses had been vandalized. All the copper had been stolen. Holes in the walls. And I was in other properties that were just pristine. They were completely vacant, looked like somebody went through and cleaned the house, but they were empty. Okay, like a ghost house. So I've experienced all of those. I've seen all of that. I know, I have a good understanding of what the market is doing, where the market is going, and what buyers are looking for. And how do I know this? Well, one, because I have a lot of buyers that I'm working with, but two, I study the market. I study the industry every day. Every day, okay? You know, other professionals, if you're a psychologist or an attorney or a CPA, a physician, you have to continually take classes to remain current for your profession. In real estate, we have to do the same thing. Because I'll tell you what, if you're buying a home today and the last time you bought a home was 10, 12, 15 years ago, it's a very different process today than it was back then. It's a very different process. Okay? The amount of paperwork that banks look for, what the buyer can do and cannot do, what's acceptable and unacceptable due to government guidelines, it's very different today than it was back then. If you're selling a home today, there are things that you need to do today that you didn't need to do before. If you've lived in your home for 20 years, 25 years, you're selling your home now, you need to get a smoke certificate. Okay, that's where you call a local fire marshal and they inspect your smoke detectors to make sure they're one, current, that is less than 10 years old, and two, functioning appropriately. If it's a multi-family house, depending on the number of units, you may have to have it hardwired, and they all need to work together. Okay? This is the responsibility of the seller, not the buyer. All right, if you have a cesspool, if you live in a rural area and you have a cesspool, cesspools are illegal, and they need to be replaced prior to sale. Or, again, depending on the type of mortgage the buyer has, perhaps it can be done within a period of time after the closing. But cesspools are illegal. Okay? If you live in Massachusetts, you need to get a Title V on your septic system. Incidentally, cesspools are also illegal in Massachusetts. These are the types of things that you need to be prepared for when you're selling a home. Consulting with a full-time experienced realtor like myself, like my friend Jennifer Giuliano up in the Framingham area. She's a Keller Williams agent. We know the answers to these questions. We know how to guide our sellers. We know what suggestions to make in order to stage your home so that it's as attractive, at the most attractive, and it will appeal to the most buyers. All right? Because that's what it is. You want to extract maximum value from the transaction for the seller. The value means don't spend too much money on doing things that you don't need to do, and do a lot of the things that don't cost you much money or don't cost any money to make the house look better, so it presents better. First impressions, folks, are so important. More than 9 out of 10 home searches begin online. Today, online means a mobile device. It could be an iPhone or a smartphone or some type of a tablet. That means they're looking at a picture that's probably an inch by an inch of your home. You want to have a sharp photograph that looks good. I use a professional photographer for my listings, and he takes really good pictures, and I get my clients to prepare their home for the photographer. You know, I had a listing, couldn't get the photographer out there in time for when the listing was going live. I took some quick pictures just to put them up on MLS. Next day, the photographer came out, took his pictures. Holy smokes. Property looks 100 times better in the listing than it did with my iPhone pictures. You need to, actually it wasn't even iPhone pictures, it was a 35mm camera, digital camera. But using a professional photographer, they know what they're doing. And that's what you get when you work with a full-time experienced realtor like yours truly, Joe Luca from RE/MAX Preferred. Folks, we're coming to the last few seconds of the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. I will be back next Tuesday evening right here at 6 o'clock on WNRI 99.9 and 95.1 on the FM dial, 1380 on the AM dial, as well as Facebook Live and TuneIn.com. Facebook Live is my business page, Joe Luca Realtor. So if you have any questions, hit me up, 401-580-9797. We want to thank our sponsors, John Dolbeck and the Dolbeck team at First Home Mortgage, as well as Anthony Betancourt and Beacon Title and Escrow. We'll be back next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey, guys. Take care. Thank you very much for tuning in. Bye-bye.